Each solar eruption begins with a pattern, not a warning. Coronal mass ejections leave the Sun at speeds near 1 million miles each hour, carrying magnetic fields that drift and twist through the heliosphere. They collide with Earth's magnetosphere roughly 3 days later, disturbing charged particles trapped within radiation belts. Auroras brighten, radio noise increases, and satellites adjust their orientation to remain stable. Yet no seismometer registers the passing shock. The Moon reaches fullness on a separate clock, governed by orbital geometry, not plasma flow. Gravitational tides shift ocean masses by measurable inches, but lithospheric strain changes are smaller than background variability. Still, public charts align the two phenomena: full moon, CME, quake, and call it connection. Coincidence becomes cause when time replaces understanding. Space weather is not seismic weather. KP indices rise because magnetotail current sheets reconnect, not because tectonic plates listen. Observation across decades from USGS and NASA shows no statistical link between geomagnetic storms and earthquake frequency. Correlation clusters exist but dissolve under temporal resampling. Each dataset reaffirms independence between ionospheric current and crustal stress release. The more events we count, the less pattern remains. Silence in science often signals accuracy. Data from GOES satellites recorded flux spikes, but ground acceleration plots remained flat. The numbers align, yet the meaning diverges. System record, continuity verified across 20 lunar cycles, no mechanical correlation detected, precision held steady while narrative fluctuated. Data sharpened, insight fractured. The Sun releases several coronal mass ejections each week during solar maximum. GOES satellites measure electron density and proton flux within Earth's radiation belts. Magnetometers on the ground record field strength variations of a few hundred nanotesla. KP indices climb when the interplanetary magnetic field tilts southward, opening magnetic gateways that channel energy into the polar atmosphere. Auroras expand, stir, power grids compensate, and navigation systems recalibrate their error margins. None of these effects reach the crust below 20 miles of solid rock. Energy looks connected when distance hides its decay. A CME cannot pass through the mantle. It ends in the ionosphere as heat and light. What begins as electromagnetic turbulence finishes as atmospheric fluorescence. Tidal forces from the Moon act mechanically through gravity. They deform ocean water by measurable feet and continental rock by less than an inch. Seismographs detect those oscillations as background noise, not as triggers. NASA and USGS joint studies across 30 lunar cycles confirm no rise in magnitude 6 events after full phase. Data from the Parker Solar Probe and SphereX missions demonstrate that magnetic compression waves dissipate long before reaching tropospheric density. The more precise our sensors became, the less overlap we found. Each new instrument reduced the illusion of cause. This paradox, more knowledge, less connection, is the signature of disciplined observation. Archive log, recorded during solar rotation 2972, confirmed nominal geomagnetic activity. Every instrument agreed, auroral storms intensified. Ground motion remained constant. The myth of lunar amplification persists because timing appears poetic. Human interpretation prefers symmetry over stochastic independence. But nature measures by function, not by story. The correlation lasts only until sampling expands. When we include the missing intervals, the signal dissolves into statistical noise. The data do not disagree, the narrative overfits. Space weather and seismic strain share vocabulary. Energy, wave, resonance, but not domain. The magnetosphere oscillates in plasma. The crust yields through pressure. One radiates, the other fractures. To connect them without mechanism is to mistake rhythm for reason. The more alignment we imagine, the less structure we explain. System record, continuity verified across 12 months of dual observation. All channels functional, no cross-coupling detected. Precision remains higher than belief. Numbers aligned, belief drifted. Every time a solar flare peaks near a full moon, the same charts circulate again. Coloured plots appear online showing lunar brightness beside global earthquake frequency. Their axes share a date but not a mechanism. The IC's rhythm, the data record coincidence. USGS catalogues list thousands of events each month. Some will always align with solar storms by chance. When NASA and ESA missions compared timelines, no consistent lag emerged. CME arrivals cluster in days. Tectonic strain builds over years. Alignment feels meaningful only when duration is ignored. Pressure accumulates along faults independent of magnetic polarity. A CME-BZ component may tilt south, but the crust does not notice. What heat reaches the ionosphere never descends through 20 miles of silicate rock. Energy measured in electron volts cannot move granite. Still, narratives persist because pattern feels safer than randomness. Graphs translate coincidence into comfort. Each viral claim repeats the same cognitive slip, seeing motion in matching timestamps. The more the numbers align visually, the less explanation remains beneath them. Every independent dataset, NOAA, JPL, USGS, finds noise where stories promise resonance. Magnetotail reconnection occurs hundreds of thousands of miles above sea level. Seismic rupture occurs 5 to 10 miles below it. Between them lies an ocean of insulating air and stone. Archive record, logged during solar rotation 2973, confirmed normal seismic variance despite elevated KP indices. The field models predicted auroras, not aftershocks. Spherex measured photon flux increase. Ground accelerometers registered silence. When plasma brightens the sky, it alters sensors, not strata. To speak of magnetic pressure on plates is to reverse scale itself. A field line bends, a fault fractures. The magnitudes differ by 20 powers of 10. Correlation without conduit is imagination. The more dramatic the pattern, the less substance it holds. Science resists theatre. It prefers error bars. Replication dissolves coincidence. Each repeated test shortens the lifespan of rumour. In the record, the myth shrinks until only the noise remains. Observation continues, story recedes, silence returns, not as absence, but as accuracy. Systems aligned, awareness drifted. What looks like foresight is often the echo of delay. Coronal mass ejections leave the Sun, but their arrival time at Earth varies by millions of miles per hour. Forecast list windows measured in hours, not certainties. When a flare path deviates, the expected impact becomes noise in another direction. At the same moment, the Moon orbit crosses Earth magnetotail for 2 days each month. Predictable geometry mistaken for coincidence. Prediction fails when coincidence is treated as cause. Solar wind compresses magnetic fields, not fault lines, yet every missed forecast feeds a story of hidden influence. When a quake occurs anywhere near a storm, the timeline expands to fit the event. When nothing happens, memory contracts to forget. Science calls this selection bias. Narrative calls it intuition. Neither changes the ground. Spherex data show electron flux rising 4 hours after each CME, while seismic records remain flat. Hubble monitors lunar limb shadow, detecting no anomalous refraction. Every model adds parameters. None produce force transfer. The more variables we include, the less predictive power remains. Archive bridge entry, logged 1 day after KP Index 6 event. Confirm no change in global strain energy. The prediction illusion persists because time alignment is visually compelling. When 2 lines meet on a chart, we imagine a handshake between phenomena. In reality, they never touched. Distance is a barrier we forget to calculate. Magnetotail currents dissipate within space plasma density. 6 orders of magnitude below air. A force so tenuous cannot bend rock. The more confident the forecast, the less tested its foundation. Uncertainty is not weakness, it is the signal of precision acknowledged. Instruments report variance, humans seek story, between them lies science, quiet and unmoved. Coincidence has a short half-life. Time converged, sense diverged. After the graphs fade, the data remain. The instruments do not argue, they accumulate. Each CME recorded, each lunar phase timed, each quake catalogued into sequences that rarely rhyme. Understanding begins where coincidence ends. 3i Atlas merges solar, magnetospheric and seismic streams, confirming that correlation peaks only when datasets are undersampled. Precision refines belief until story loses its shape. Hubble continues monitoring auroral spectra. JTO double. UST aligns thermal drift corrections, and Spherex confirms photon scatter stability. No cross-domain forcing detected. Mystery survives only where method hesitates. Every calibration replaces doubt with quantifiable error. The field quiets when uncertainty is written in numbers. Archive record, logged 12 hours after magnetotail transit, notes steady ground acceleration values, nothing extraordinary observed. Awareness settles into measurement. Expectation dissolves. By looking carefully enough, we learn that absence itself is information. If CMEs disturb satellites but not stones, the distinction defines comprehension. Stillness is not emptiness. It is confirmation that variables remain independent. The more continuity we prove, the less imagination we require. By measuring disturbance, the observer becomes part of the calm. This is the reflective equilibrium of empirical science. It recognizes error as structure and uncertainty as fidelity. Magnetometers, seismometers, and telescopes share no medium except patience. Their rhythms overlap without exchange, like instruments in different rooms following the same clock. Each reading narrows the field of possible myths. Every repetition deepens reliability. Awareness shifts from searching for influence to understanding insulation. Between sun, moon, and earth, forces remain honest about their boundaries. Energy respects its medium. Gravity moves oceans, magnetism moves electrons, tension moves faults, nothing more, nothing less. To confuse their functions is to replace physics with poetry. Yet, poetry once led us here, and precision keeps us here. The experiment repeats because it remembers itself. Observation becomes a habit, awareness becomes its witness. The mirror closes, prediction was the noise, comprehension the signal. Knowledge expanded, coherence thinned, coincidence ended, comprehension remained. Light measured itself through us. Light increased, mystery deepened.